Have you ever felt like your mistakes define you? Like the wrong turns you took, the words you regret saying, or the paths you wish you had avoided have trapped you in a cycle of failure? But here's the truth. God can use your mistakes. In fact, He can turn them into stepping stones toward your destiny. Look at the life of Moses. Raised in the palace of Egypt, he made a terrible mistake when he killed an Egyptian in anger. Fearing for his life, he fled into the wilderness, thinking his purpose was lost. But God met him in that wilderness. God turned Moses' mistake into a divine encounter at the burning bush, commissioning him to lead the Israelites out of slavery. What seemed like the end for Moses was just the beginning of God's plan. God took his mistake and used it to bring about the deliverance of an entire nation. You may feel like your mistakes have disqualified you from God's plan, but nothing could be further from the truth. Romans chapter 8 verse 28 reminds us, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose." Notice it says things. This includes your mistakes, your failures, and even your regrets. David, the man after God's own heart, made a grievous mistake when he committed adultery with Bathsheba and orchestrated her husband's death. Yet, even after such a fall, God restored David. Out of that brokenness came Solomon, a king known for his wisdom, and through Solomon's lineage came Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. David's story shows us that our mistakes do not derail God's plans, they become part of the story He's writing for our lives. When Peter denied Jesus 3 times, he thought he had blown it. He was filled with guilt and shame. But Jesus, in His grace, sought Peter out, restored him, and used him to build His church. On the day of Pentecost, it was Peter who stood up and boldly preached, leading 3,000 people to Christ. What looked like the end of Peter's story was just the beginning of God's greater purpose. You see, God doesn't just forgive our mistakes, He redeems them. He turns them into testimonies of His grace, wisdom, and power. In Joel chapter 2 verse 25, God promises, "I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten." God is in the business of restoration, and He specializes in turning our greatest failures into our greatest victories. So, what does this mean for you? It means you don't have to hide from your past or be haunted by it. God is bigger than your mistakes. He can use your failures as fuel for your future. He can take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it into something good. Let go of the shame and guilt. Trust that God is at work even in the messiest parts of your life. He is weaving your mistakes into a tapestry of grace that will glorify Him and bless others. Your mistakes are not the end. They are the raw materials for God's masterpiece. So when you look at your life and see mistakes, don't despair. Instead, lift your eyes to the one who can turn it all around. Surrender your failures to God and watch Him use them in ways you never imagined. Remember, God can use our mistakes, and through Him, even our brokenness can become beautiful.